This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Mem Ches, and all the learning for this month. The month of Tevis has been generously sponsored as an incredible Schos Aliyas Neshama for Arya ben Ya'akov V'Siyata D'Shemaya. The learning of the entire Chabura should bring Arya ben Ya'akov to a higher and higher place in Gan Eden Shalmayla and be a Milat Yosher for his entire family. We pick it up on Mem Zayin Amid Beis. We are 6 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots. We're in the middle of discussing damages that happen in someone else's rishos, whether one was allowed to have entered into his friend's rishos or not, and then gets damaged or not. And in such a scenario, who is obligated? So says the Gemara, 6 lines from the bottom of Mem Zayin Amid Beis, we begin with a shayla. Heichal de kibol of netirusa mahu. When one placed his stuff or went into his friend's rishos, and that friend was mikabel that he will do some level of watching of something left in his rishos, what did he accept the watching on? Did nafshehu de kabel alei oidilma afilu netirusa de alma kabel alei? What was accepted by the balabayis? If I go into your rishos, you give me permission to leave an item there, and therefore you accept yourself to watch that item. What did you accept? Did you accept to guard that item from only nafshehu de kabel alei, that you will be responsible against your own damage, or even from damage from the outside, from a third party, we'll call it. And as the Gemara will explain, this will hopefully become immediately clear. Tashema, says the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom. Tani Rav Yehuda bar Simon, Bini Zaken Dvei Karna, the following case. Someone brings his peiros into the courtyard of his friend. So again, I come into your house and I just drop off a bushel of apples, a basket of apples on your kitchen. Very important. And an animal comes from elsewhere. Again, I leave. Let's keep the apples out of your kitchen. I leave in your front driveway. I leave a barrel of apples without any permission. A shar comes mimakam acher, va'achlan and eats them. Potter. The halacha is he is potter. Vim hechnes bershos. But let's say I had permission to leave the apples in your backyard, and then a shar comes mimakam acher. Chayiv, he is chayiv. Man potter, man chayiv, and as often potter chayiv. Who's potter? Who's chayiv? What is potter? What is chayiv? Says the Gemara, man potter, man chayiv, lav potter, bal hachotzer, v'chayiv bal hachotzer. We're not talking about he who gave rishos to leave the apples, your backyard. You gave me rishos, so you are potter if there was no rishos. But if you gave me rishos, then seemingly you are chayiv. So what do we see? We see that you accepted to watch my apples, not just from your own property, but even mimakoim acher. Because this is a case that the shar came in mimakoim acher. Says the Gemara, no raya on the last line, Amri loy potter balashar, v'chayiv balashar. It's referring to me, that if I didn't have rishos to be there, then I am potter. If I had rishos, incorrect. I was the bal hapeiros. The bal hashar, the third party, he is potter if these apples had no rishos there to be there, and he is chayiv if the apples had rishos to be there. Says the Gemara, perhaps the Avi is kasha. The bal hashar, referring to the bal hashar that you were discussing, is chayiv or potter over here. My bershos, my shalom bershos ika. What's the case? What does it mean that the bal hashar had or did not have rishos? Where is there any level of rishos that could be had by the Baal Hashar. Explains the Gemara, Amri. So they explained, Bershos Havale Shein, Bershos HaNizik, Shaloi Bershos is Havila Shein Bershos HaRabim. And therefore, Shein Bershos HaRabim, the halacha is Petura, that you're going to be potter. So really the entire case changes, and now it has nothing to do with what we're referring to. It's referring to whether the shars had a right to enter in or not. In a scenario where he did not have a right to enter, why is he liable? He's liable because then it's like a case of eating something versus a rabbim. Excuse me, why is he potter then? Because then it's like a case of eating something versus a rabbim, which the halacha is pitura. So far, we have not answered the question. Tashema, and the Gemara tries again. Hechnis shayray lechatzer balabayis shaloi bershos ubashar mimakam acher v'nachai. I bring my animal into your backyard without permission. An animal comes from elsewhere and gores my animal. Potter, he is potter v'mechz bershos chayiv. So again, man potter, man chayiv, we're referring to. Lav potter balachatzer v'chayiv balachatzer. Says Gemara again, no, lie. Potter balashar v'chayiv balashar. Yachim ay bershos ma'isha bershos ika. Amri hamani rev tarfini. Damar mishurin mishona karen bechatzer hanizik. That what nezik shalem mishalim. So bershos havle karen bechatzer hanizik. If the Baal Hashar, the third party acts, had a right to bring his animal into the backyard, so then that's a case of Karen. He is damaging Bechotzer HaNizik in the damagee's possession. If he doesn't have the right to be there, then it's considered as if it's Rishus Harabim. V'loi mishalma ella chatzi nezik. So says the Gemara, and let's just be clear, because there's two shars over here. When we talk about having the permission, the Pater Balashar v'chayiv Balashar, referring to the case where the ox that was the damaged had no permission, or the ox that was damaged had permission. So if the ox that was damaged had no permission to be there, then it's considered like you're standing in Rosh Hashanah. Someone else comes and damages you, you just play regular Chatzi Nazik. But if the ox that was damaged, again, I brought my ox to your backyard and then a third party comes, so if I have permission to be there, then it makes it ki'ilu as if I am in my own rishos because I had a right to be there. So I'm in Chotzer Hanizik Ki'ilu. It's my area. And then when the third party comes and damages, that's going to be the case that we're saying that's Meshunach Karen. But Chotzer Hanizik, that Nezek Shalim, in that scenario, you would have to pay. And that answers up our original Shailah. Says the Gemara story. We're about 14 lines down. First line is Ahi Hayitza de Ulsa Lemeifa Bahu Beisa. There was a woman who entered into a house of someone else, Lemeifa, to bake. Asa Barcha Demare Beisa, and a goat of the person whose house that she was in comes and Achla Elisha and eats up the dough. Chavelu Meis. And then the animal becomes overheated and the animal dies. Says the Gemara, Chayava Rava l'shalume demei baracha. Rava says you have to pay the demei baracha, the value of the goat. Says the Gemara, Leimi pligi adirav. So now this goes back to yesterday. Yesterday, if you remember, we had a very similar scenario. There, the woman was entering to grind wheat. Yesterday, we had the Yisayt of Rav. That was what? Damar Rav, Havyalah, Shalai Seichal. Rav held that there's an idea that your animal should not have eaten my stuff. And therefore, if your animal is damaged from eating my stuff, says Rav, I am not obligated. Your animal died. I did not have permission to be there. What's your animal eating it? So suggests the Gemara, should we say that this din of Rava is arguing on Rav? Answers the Gemara, Amri, Hachi Ashta, the cases are not comparable. Asam Shalai Bershos. Over there in Rav's case was Shalai Bershos. Lo Kiblav Netirusa. But Hacha Bershos, says the Gemara, we just assumed the cases were the same. There was Shalai Bershos. Says the Gemara, no, this case is in which there was Rishos, and therefore Kabbalah Alei Netirusa, and that's a Rava Paskint, that if the animal ate and died, that the woman is going to be chayiv. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Is potter, vim huska chayeves, and if the animal is damaged, then the woman is chayiv, and from there we can be medayek. Timer shleiber shos aber shos potter. So we see a direct steer between that case and our case. Answers the Gemara, Amri litchoin chitim. That case, why did the woman enter into this other person's house? Was to grind wheat. Kiman de lo bayot siniyusam midi, since she does not need any tznius while grinding the wheat. Lo bayim misalka maravata de chatzer denavshei. Therefore, the owner of the house didn't have to remove himself. Vala tidei rami nitirusa. And therefore, the owner is the one that is chayiv to watch in such a scenario. Avol lemifa, but in our case, is a fundamental difference. The woman didn't enter to grind; she entered to do what? To bake. And says the Gemara, "Even the bayik eats in the she needs more tznias when she comes to bake." Rashi says, "Why? You gotta knead the dough. So you roll up your sleeves." So if you roll up your sleeves, Marvata de Chatzer Misalki Navshayu, the owner of the Chatzer removes himself from the area. Hilkach Allah Dido Ramya Nitirosa. She is obligated to watch. So very Yishmak, says the Gemara, it's a different case. She comes in to grind. That's not a public thing. It's not a private thing. So the owner of the house is still there, and they're obligated to make sure there's no problem. But in our case, in which she entered into bake, in which it's a action in which she might be required to roll up her sleeves, therefore the owner of the courtyard is not going to be there, therefore she accepts to watch on her own. Continues the Gemara, 14 lines from the Y lines. If so brings the shar into the chatzar of the Baal HaBayis. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, says Rava, a similar scenario. Hechnis shayrai l'chatzar Baal HaBayis shaloi b'rshos v'chava rabbayir shichlem arais balashar chayiv b'niskei chatzar u'bal chatzar chayiv b'niskei habar balbar chayiv b'niskei habar. So says Rava, really a first cousin to the din in the Mishnah, that when one brings their ox into their friend's house, and the ox, the ox dug ditches, etc., the halacha is the Baal Hashar is mechayiv niskei chatzir. You destroyed his backyard. He sat there. The ox made holes and it chewed up the land. So the Baal Hashar has to pay for the damages to the chatzir. But now the chatzir has a bar. There's a hole there. Ubal chatzir is chayiv v'nizkei habar. Af al gav, says the Gemara, even though the Amar Mar Ki yechra ish bar says in the Torah that if a person digs a bar and man falls into, then you're chayiv. V'lo shar bar, not if a shar dug a bar. Hach over here, kimin de is leila hayich limaluye. Since you should have filled it in, but loy kamali, you didn't fill it in. Kaman de kari dami. Therefore, the owner of the chutzner, even though he did not dig this bar, he is going to be mechuyav to watch the bar. V'amar Rava, and continues Rava. Hechnei shayir the chutzner balabayis sheloi bershos. Someone brings his ox into another person's possession without permission. And the ox damaged the balabayis, or the balabayis was damaged by tripping over the ox. Chayiv, the shar is chayiv. Ravatz, if the shar squatted, potter, then he's potter. Says the Gemara, Mishum the Ravatz potter. I don't understand. Cause the shar squatted, therefore it's potter. Amar Papa man Ravatz. What does it mean, Ravatz? Shechirbit Galalim, that he used the bathroom. V'nathu kelav shabalabayis, and the balabayis' items got ruined. So what? So why is the balashar potter? Tave Galalim bar. Because the Galalim is damaging via one's extension of his body, which is the bar. V'lo bar shechayev by es ha-kelim. Therefore, the bar is not chayev a-kelim. Says the Gemara, Hanich l'Shmuel, Damar kol takala baru. Yeah, so Shmuel holds that any takala, any stumbling block, any issue that's created as a bar. So over here, if the animal used the bathroom, indeed, that has a din of a bar. El Rav Amar, Adim Mafkirle, and that's when it's considered a bar. My Ikalamemar answers Gemara Amri Stam Galalim Mafkuri Mafkir. We assume Stam Galalim, Stam dung of the animal, the owner is indeed Mafkir it. The Amar Rav continues the Gemara Amar Rava Nechles Chaz Ba'abayis Shlober Shos V'Hozik is a Ba'abayis, a Ba'abayis who's like Ba'ay, a similar case. What's the halacha? Chayev, he is chayev. Hiziku Ba'abayis. But if the Ba'abayis damaged him, now we're not talking about his animal, he entered into someone else's rishos and damage, he's chayev, the Ba'abayis damaged him, then the halacha is potter. Amar Rab Papa, teach Rab Papa, says Rab Papa, when do we say that if the Ba'abayis damaged the person that was in his house without permission, is only in a case law yadabe? He didn't know the guy was there. Aval have a yadabe, Zigu Ba'abayis chayiv. Then if he damaged him, you're chayiv. My damage him damar lei. He dias l'charishus lafuke. It's sure that you have the right to throw me out of your house. Do you have the right to damage me if I come into your house without permission? It's true. You can say, what are you doing here? Get out of here. But does that mean you can come and punch me in the face? And therefore you're going to be chayiv. Says the Gemara, and this din is azlatam hayud. Amar Rava v'tim Rab Papa, as we turn over to Memchasim Beis. Rava said the name Rab Papa, Shnehem Bershos. If two people are in a place and both of them had permission to be there, and then what happens? So they both don't have permission to be there. In both scenarios, if they damage one to another, chayavim, then they are chayiv. But if they get damaged one by each other, then what's the halacha? Then peturin. What? The reason is because the shneim bershos, the shneim shel bershos. Avolecha bershos, vecha shaloi bershos. The bershos is going to be potter. Shloi bershos is going to be chayiv, which concurs with the din that we just said, that Rava, in the name of Rav Papa. And we continue quoting the Mishnah, 6 lines down, Memches Amid Beis, Naflu lebar vehivish meimav. If one was in someone else's property without permission, and the animal falls into the bar, makes the water disgusting, then the one that was there without permission is chayiv. Amar Rava teaches Rava Laishanu Ela Shehivish Bishas Nefila. Again, I walk with my animal into your backyard. My animal falls into your bar, and there's water in the bar that gets now ruined. Avola achar nefila, says Rava, potter. But if I made the water disgusting after the animal fell into it, then the contamination referred lachar zman, then it's going to be potter. Why? My taima have a shar bar, because then my shar has a bit of a bar. Because it didn't damage on contact, it fell in, and then over time it damaged. That's like a bar, a stumbling block that damages over time. Umayim is kalim, and the water is like your kalim. Bar, and we don't find the bar. Shachayav boy esa kalim. Says Gemara, like we just saw a moment ago. Hagnik lishmol damar kol tekal baru. Al rav damar damav kalim aykalim meimar. Al yitmar achi yitmar. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav lo shan lo shehivish. May gufai of the animal, may reichai. But if it damaged not through the body itself, but rather through the smell of the carcass as it died, then potter my taima grama ba'almu, grama ba'alma, loy mechayiv. It's only a grama, didn't happen right away, and the lacha is you're not chayiv for a grama. Grama b'nizakin is potter. Of course, there's always a chayiv b'dei shamayim. We continue the two dots about 14 lines down. If there's the person, the Baal Bais, his father or son is in the bar and the animal falls in and kills it, you're chayiv to pay kaifer. Ask the Gemara, why are you chayiv to pay kaifer? Atamu amarav b'mud. And it is a mud. This has happened to this animal before. What do you mean? As we know, if it's a mud, that the animal should have been put to death. As a shar hamud, the halacha is chayiv misa. Rav Yosef the chazi aruka v'nafal. We've already had this Gemara that it saw vegetation and it fell on top of it, so it didn't do in order to damage. Shmuel Amar, a second shad hamani is Rav Yosef Galilihi Damar Tamisham Chatzi Kaifer. It is a tam indeed. So what did the Mishnah mean when it said you pay Kaifer? It meant Chatzi Kaifer. Ula Amar, a third shot. So again, shot number one is that it's all Yeruka and fell in it. That's what you have to pay. Shot number two is Rav Yosef Glili Tamisham Chatzi Kaifer. Shot number three is Ula Amar. Rav Yosef Glili the Amar Kirav Tarfin. The Amar Karen B'Chatzar Nizik. Nezik Shalem Mishalem. Hachinami Kaifer Shalem Mishalem. Just like Karen B'Chatzar Nizik has been Nezik Shalem, so too with regard to Kaifer, says the Gemara, Kaifer Shalem Mishalem, according to Rav Tarfin, we're going to have a chiddush, and you're going to have to pay Kaifer. Says Gemara, 1 second. Beish Lamlu Laina Diktani Avav B'Nai L'Toichli. El Shmuel Ma'irav B'Nai Afilu Achanami. According to the pshat of Shmuel, that Shmuel explained that you're paying half damages. So says the Gemara, Chatzi Kaifer. So what's the reason that's Avivai B'nai, even another person as well? Says the Gemara, Stam, Orcha Demilsa Katani, the Mishnah just listed a normal case that who's going to be inside the pit. It makes sense that it's Avivai B'nai, as it is in this guy's possession. We continue about 15 lines from the bottom, the two dots, from the wide lines, the two dots. Then what? That if he acts with permission and it is damaged, then the owner of the chatzir is chayiv. And the Mishnah ended off teaching that Rebbe held in all these cases the Baal Bayis is potter, but unless he explicitly accepts permission, explicitly accepts to watch the animal. Itmar Rav Amar Alochi Kitani Kamba Shmuel Amar Alochi Kirebi. So we have a machlekes. Who do we paskin like? Tana Rabbanon, says the Gemara, Kanayshar Chavish Amroi. Hezechayiv Uzik Vater, says a Braisa. The Baal Bayis says, bring in your ox into my house and watch it. Hezechayiv, if the ox damaged something inside the Baal Bayis' house, then the ox is chayiv. Huzak, if the ox is damaged, then the Baal Bayis is potter. But if he said, if he speaks out that I am going to watch it, then huzak, if an animal gets damaged, then chayiv the Baal Bayis hazik, then it's going to be potter. Says Mar, what's going on here? Hagufa kasha. Amri kanai sharcha v'shamru as a chayiv huzak potter. Time Adarmale Shamrai. The reason is that why? Because he said Shamra, you told the Baal Hashar to watch his acts, and therefore the Chayav Baal Hashar or Pater Baal Hachatz. Stam, if you didn't say anything, Chayav Baal Hachatz or Pater Baal Hashar. Why? This is going to be a classical steer in the Yukim, because Mistam, we assume he accepted upon himself to watch it. But he must say, for what does the end of the Brisa say? Only because he said, I'll watch it. Timachayev, Balachatzer, Pater Balashar. Hastama, Chayev Balashar, Pater Balachatzer, the Visamala Kabbalah in the Tirusa. Asyan the Rebbe. Tamashi Kabbalah in the Tirusa Balabayis, Lishmar. Reisha Rabbanan Visiva Rebbe. It's a classical stira. Is there an implicit acceptance to watch the animal or not? Finishes the Gemara, Amar Avalazar, Tavra, classical, Mishashanazu, Loshanazu, Teretz number 1. Teretz number 2, Rava Amar, really, I'll tell you, Kulu Rabban. Really, it is indeed all the Rabban. And how do we answer up the Braisa? I did not say Reisha Shamra, didn't say Vani Ashmerenu, but really that was only Derech Agav. Rav Papa Amar, a third Shan explaining the Braisa, Kula Rebbe. So if we're going with the sheet of Rav Tarfon, the second time we had Rav Tarfon today, the Karen B'chatzar Nizik Bein Nizik Shalim. Hilkach Amar Le Shamroi Lo Makni Le Makom. You did not give him over the place B'chatzar. Vavli Karen B'chatzar Nizik, and therefore Karen B'chatzar Nizik Shalim B'Shalim. If you didn't say watch it, you're giving him over the place. So our Papa has a little more of an inventive answer that whether you said Shamar or not will determine whether you're giving him right to be inside the area. It's considered to be Chatzar Nizik and therefore have Nezik Shalim or not. We'll pick it up from the Mishnah the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.